Episode 1 of The Patient Paradox.
We're here.
Welcome.
I think we've made it now. We've got a podcast.
We do. This is exciting. It's something we've been talking about doing for a very long time.
A long while, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was good to just take the plunge.
Yeah, all these things you can kind of put them on the long finger, but yeah, it's been a passion of ours, and feel like we have something to say and some people we want to talk to. So it's great to get going with it.
The timing is good.
Yeah.
So I suppose for listeners who don't know us, but I would say the majority of listeners on this podcast will know us.
At the start.
My mum and your dad, definitely listener 1 and listener 2. But for those who don't know us, Fergus, let's give a little bit of an intro into who we are and why we're here.
Yeah, that's it really. It's kind of like what we've done and what's kind of led up to today and starting a podcast. So in terms of, I'm not going to go all the way back with my story, but it was really like a health issue for me 5 or 6 years ago now at this point that kind of opened up our eyes to, well, my eyes certainly at the time. Like had this 9-month period of going from being, normal health, extremely fit, playing all the sports, like working, everything, just normal life, to just being chronic fatigue, struggling to get out of bed every day, being able to get to work, but being at like 50% of my capacity, having to come off in my football matches after like 15 minutes, not being able to breathe right. So it was scary, and I didn't really know what was causing this. Your mind goes into overdrive, and
it affected your social life as well.
It affected my social life.
You were a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I was a pain in the ass. I remember you trying to like get me to go to a party or whatever on a Saturday night, and I was just like, I just can't go, and like I just felt that when a flu is coming on or whatever, and you just got that heat in your body, and you just know something's not right. But like it felt like that for 9 months. Yeah,
like physically, and well, I suppose from the outside, like you looked like the picture of health.
Yeah, maybe.
I think you did,
and like affect me.
Whenever you would say to people like you weren't feeling your best for whatever reason, I nearly feel like they didn't believe you. Like it was kind of one of those, if you like, silent.
That's true.
Diseases or whatever.
It's kind of an internal thing. Yeah. To the outside, you look fine, and then you just inside, you just feel like a bag of shit. But yeah, it really started to affect me, as you said, my social life, my work life, then I was like, okay, I need to get to the bottom of this. Obviously, I went to see the GP a couple of times. I was kind of getting pains in my sinuses in my head. So they diagnosed it as a sinus infection and put me on rounds of antibiotics. 3 months later, I was getting worse. So I went back to the GP again, another round of antibiotics, and just gradually getting worse and worse and worse. So then I was looking at Chinese herbal medicine. I remember my mum and me were just kind of looking up every type of avenue possible to get to the bottom of this. And anyway, finally I ended up going, there's a family friend we had in Galway called Basma, who is a functional medicine doctor. Functional medicine, for people who aren't aware, it's kind of kicked off as a new form of healthcare, I suppose, in the last probably 20 years, but now is gaining a lot of recognition. And really what functional medicine is about, it's called a systems-based approach. So instead of like with your traditional healthcare, you go in, they look at your symptom. So my symptom was my sinus pain, and then they give you, your antibiotics or your medicines for that. Functional medicine kind of looks at like all our systems are connected. So you might have a headache or a sinus infection, but actually where is that stemming from? So it looks at your whole body approach, essentially what it does. And really it's trying to find the root cause of your problem, because that skin issue that you may have, that's just not starting in the skin. Like that's normally an internal issue, the food you're eating, or whatever, stress you may be under. So yeah, I went to see this functional medicine doctor to try get this root cause, and we did a number of tests, and anyway, what we discovered was that I had an underlying gut issue, my gut wall had become permeated, essentially. It's called leaky gut syndrome. And basically every time when you're eating or whatever, bad like particles and pathogens and stuff are leaking into your bloodstream, so it just starts to drain you. So working with this doctor was, after a few weeks, we found the root cause, completely changed up my diet and my approach to life, introduced me to a number of different supplements. It was all about like building up that gut wall, reducing the inflammation. And like, as you know, 4 or 5 weeks later, back to normal.
Transformative.
Different man. It is transformative at the time, because I know, in speaking about it before, it's like when you're healthy, you have so many things you care about. Like, you know, it's that Saturday night out party. There's just like everything, there's a million things going on in all our heads at any given time. But when you're sick, the only thing you care about is getting healthy. Like, you have a very singular focus. So when I did actually feel that kind of like the clouds lifted for me, because it's like, geez, the fatigue isn't there. I can run again. So that was a massive kind of turning point in my life, I suppose. Seeing, firstly, being on someone who was sick and ill for a while, then seeing this approach kind of being let down by the traditional healthcare system, and not throwing on any shade on any GPs or whatever. You know, maybe 8 out of 10 times someone going in with the sinus infection symptoms, the antibiotic might have been the right approach for them. But in fairness to them, they don't have enough time to kind of look into all that. And then going down the functional medicine, that whole approach, and getting cured from that was real kind of eye-opening.
So that was really the start or the catalyst for Ethos.
It was, yeah. So like, we were both working corporate jobs at the time. You were in marketing. I was in consulting. Like, things were good. Like, we were kind of being a little bit drained by the whole corporate life. Like, you had your own issues. Yeah, so issues sounds like a big thing. You definitely have your own.
Well, I suppose, like, you actually, for the listener who may not know what Ethos is, Ethos is our food supplement business that we share together. We never actually said this, but Fergus and I are partners in life and in business. He hates when I say that.
That's seriously cringy. Come on. We want this to be a bit better than that.
But we founded Ethos actually very much kind of after this cycle of ill health that Fergus had. But I suppose simultaneously, I kind of had my own challenges as well. At the time I was working, I actually just kind of landed what was essentially my dream job, working in an agency on marketing for some of the biggest brands in the world. But COVID hit very soon, like 2 months into when I started my job. And my role was very much work from home, and I had never worked in that way before. It was all completely new to me, and it just did not suit my personality whatsoever. And very quickly I became burnt out, and a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of like physical stress and drain as well. And I suppose Fergus was teasing the idea of Ethos, and you needed the marketing support and help at the time. So it was actually a no-brainer. And it was the best thing ever, because it was also a great time because we weren't spending money. We were stuck at home. It was actually a great time to start a business.
Yeah, everyone says, God, you started a business during COVID. And like, it obviously had its disadvantages, not being able to go out and meet certain customers and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, like, online e-commerce businesses flying it.
Yeah.
You didn't have much of a social life, so we could really channel our focus to the business. So it had its advantages as well.
Yeah. So obviously our products as well are kind of geared towards stress. So I was keen to jump on the journey. Stress was definitely the theme of my life at the time. And Ethos really kicked off 3 years ago.
Yeah. So we just kind of nearly accidentally, we just got kicked into this world of health and through the business. And then I suppose since then, like, we've just been on a journey. Like, we've become health nerds as we just consume the content daily. Like through our work, we're talking to like health professionals, doctors, nutritional therapists, dietitians, functional medicine doctors, people who work with us to advise us on our products and stuff, but just generally through like our network and stuff like that. So
I think the interest was definitely always there within us, but this kind of sparked something or lit the flame, whatever you want to call it, to really get that going. I'm so guilty, and I always have been so guilty of being that person who Googles every single symptom they have. You're always giving out to me. But I suppose it's just that kind of natural curiosity that I might have.
Yeah, we always find they'll list 10 symptoms, like, and you're going to connect with one of them because like we're all going to connect
always,
with one of them.
Yeah. And actually it is important to say as well, and I should have said this at the start, Fergus and I do not consider ourselves healthcare professionals whatsoever. So anything that we talk about on this podcast and our own experiences and interventions, we're always at the advice of the practitioners that we worked with personally. So yeah, don't take what our experience as your own advice. Do speak to your healthcare professional.
Yeah, 100%. But I think that's what that's what this podcast really is about. So we've kind of got submersed. Is that a word?
Submerged
even.
And immersed. You just mix two words together.
It sounds like a good word. Yeah. In this world, through the business. And from that, then we're talking to our customers every day. We're talking to these health professionals, so, and we're doing our own research. And we're now aware, our awareness has grown hugely about the world of health and the problems that exist. And from chatting to our customers as well, we're really seeing the issues like people are dealing with day to day.
Yeah.
So we've been the guinea pigs to a lot of this stuff, and kind of that's what we wanted. That's why we really wanted to start the podcast. Right. We feel still from talking to our friends, our family, the customers, like there's still a lack of information out there of what actually good health looks like and how you can create your own health and simple things you can do to like really help yourself on a day to day.
Totally.
And kind of what we've been told through you and your marketing and, that's kind of filtered down through the generations of what actually people think is right.
Yeah.
That needs to be challenged a bit. And that's kind of what we want to do through this. And as you said, like, we're not the professionals. We're the every person who has an interest and wants to kind of ask the questions to educate ourselves and educate everyone on these topics.
So if we look at like what we have learned in the last 3 years since starting Ethos, like definitely we've come on leaps and bounds in terms of our own knowledge. You mentioned there like customers. So with our community, what have been some of the most eye-opening things that you have noticed since starting Ethos within the population, if you like?
Yeah, within the population, everyone is stressed and most people are struggling with their sleep.
Yeah, and that comes from we would do a lot of research with our customers every now and then. We'll do surveys. Sometimes we even pick up the phone and we always try and get a sense on what are the most common health worries or concerns or issues that people are facing. And people always tick like 2 or 3 boxes. And the common denominator is always stress. So someone could have fibromyalgia, but they always say stress too. Or someone could have sleep issues. It's always stress too.
Yeah, and that was the kind of light bulb moment for us, and we started looking into stress a bit more.
Yeah.
And very alarming that the World Health Organization has said that stress is the epidemic of the 21st century, and it's the root cause of 90% of health issues, chronic health issues. So like, it's involved in everything. So, and then the further we've researched it and stuff, it's just like this worldwide problem, but it's a worldwide problem, but it's kind of exists within all of us. We do want to raise awareness about that as well, that like everyone, you might think that you might be not under stress, but
and a bit of stress is good, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's good stress and there's bad stress, but people who are suffering like chronic stress that's going on for days or weeks, and what we've really learned, like when people hear stress, they straight away they think anxiety.
Yeah.
But stress is very much mental, but also physical and internal, and what's going on inside your body. and they're both connected. This gut-brain connection that we'll definitely delve into deeper with a couple of our experts. But it's kind of nearly getting back to that functional medicine approach. Everything's connected. So if you're having real issues in your gut, like I was having, that's going to affect your brain. Like I was having brain fog, memory issues, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We need to realize that everything is connected and one affects the other.
Something else that was so eye-opening to me since starting Ethos was this whole world of like silent disease that we just kind of spoke about with your experience. So like, I didn't know what fibromyalgia was before we started Ethos.
Yeah.
And I remember a friend of yours was trying our products and you were explaining to me that he had this condition. And I was like, how have we never heard of this before? So for people who don't know that might be listening, fibromyalgia is usually chronic pain or chronic fatigue or both, but usually one is more prevalent than the other and it's usually unexplained. And there is no real cure for it, I guess. But 13% of Irish people actually have chronic pain, which is just mind-blowing. And it's this kind of silent disease. So that was just something that I think like most people think like disease is physical or disease is visible, and if you can go about your daily life to some capacity, you're fine, you know?
Yeah.
But that's definitely not the case. But yeah, just something else that I had kind of picked up on. So one real beauty of starting Ethos was actually getting to work with practitioners across lots of different fields. And we've both just really enjoyed that experience personally. Just being able to soak up lots of knowledge and learn through practice.
And like we're using them for our own
personal
still, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a little bit more preventative now. Like when before we were going to see these people because like we were sick or I was sick. But now it's a little bit more, all right, I'm getting into my early 30s. Like you're getting older. You want to make sure that you keep and there's something that I often hear. There's a guy, Peter Attia in Adia, maybe is how you say it in America. And it's not about like your lifespan and increasing your lifespan. It's about increasing your health span. So how long can you be healthy for? And that's kind of what I'm going to see like practitioner about now is more about like, how do I get my gut right and everything else working as it should, my inflammation levels as I get older and as you become a bit more susceptible, you know, when you're younger, your cells and it's like your mitochondria in your cells, which is the energy in your cells, they're very strong. But as you grow older, that can begin to weaken. When that weakens, then you can become a little bit more susceptible to things. So it's like, as we get older, how can we make sure that we give ourselves the best chance?
Right. And from the practitioners that we have worked with through Ethos, so when I say practitioner, I'm talking like anyone at all in the medical field. Like it could be a doctor, a nutritionist, a nutritional therapist, a dietitian. Like what are the key things that you're pulling from those conversations that you're having?
From a personal perspective or
professionally, I would say within the business, like and what has the experience been like working with them on building Ethos?
Yeah, the experience has always been, well, it differs by those people, but the experience that I've been dealing with recently with like a nutritional therapist is again trying to get to the root cause, and with that comes a certain amount of testing that's needed. That's not needed for everyone.
Yeah,
but what's really comes to the fore is that most things can be solved with lifestyle interventions, and healthcare today really is actually kind of sick care. That's essentially it. So it's like you get sick and then you go and try get a medicine but really we want to be moving to a world of like healthcare and creating health and being a bit more preventative, as I spoke about there. So there's definitely these there's massive problems out there, right? So chronic disease is on the rise, like exponentially.
Yeah.
For the first time ever in our lifetimes, in the last couple of generations, is that the life expectancy of people is now starting to reduce, decline, which is seriously worrying. So a question we are going to try answer in this podcast and from talking to these experts is like, why in a world where like medicine is getting more advanced are people getting more sick? And like, I think that's a very important question to ask. And I think there's two things at play. There's the healthcare system, the way it's set up. It's kind of nearly been set up to fail for the great like doctors and stuff that work in it. There's that. And then there's all these lifestyle society issues. You know, the stress. Why are people not exercising enough? The diets we have. And we really want to talk to these people to unpick like, why are people eating the way they are, even though it's making them unwell? And that kind of thing, like really diving into those areas. So the thing we've learned is actually most things can be reversed and healed with lifestyle interventions. And that's been the eye-opening piece.
Yeah, and I think that's the key is like, okay, a lot of this narrative is, it can be a little bit negative, but the beauty about what we're talking about is there are solutions, or better yet, there are preventative measures. So you don't get to that point where maybe you need to meet one of these doctors or whatever it is. And I feel like we both have experience of that. So like you were kind of lucky in a way that your body was telling you through your headaches or your fatigue that like something is wrong. And like that, thank God, because that could very well have manifested into something a lot bigger later on in life. And probably similar with my own experience. So I feel like now in my life, I'm the healthiest I've ever been. And
you were saying the other day, like it's the first time ever, like you're over a year.
The first time in 12 years, I would say, that I haven't been to see a GP within the last 12 months.
And you'd put that down to like the nutritional stuff you've worked on and other lifestyle.
So I started working with Jess O'Dwyer, who some people may be familiar with. Jess is a nutritional therapist. She does a little bit of work for us at Ethos. But Jess is a friend, and I approached her early last summer because there were a few things coming up that I just wasn't happy with, and I'm totally happy to invest in my health. So I thought I'm going to give this a go. But basically what I was experiencing was a lot of gut issues. Like I remember we were at a wedding and I had my dinner, and after the dinner I was keeled over with stomach pain, and I was like, this is so weird. This is so weird. But I've always also had like what I call IBS attacks. I'll spare you all the details, but let's just say I got caught out in life a few times. Fergus was a witness. But there were a couple of these things just going on that I wasn't happy with, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to meet Jess and have a chat with her, see what she thinks. And like when I had my first meeting with Jess, it was like the floodgates opened. She was like asking me all these questions from about my lifestyle, like way back when, from like when I was born right up until now. And like as she was asking me these questions and I was answering, I was like, oh my God, there's actually a lot more going on here than I had even realized. Things like hay fever and lots of other stuff. Anyway, over the last like 9 months, I've been on a journey with Jess. It started with this functional testing that we've spoken about. So gross again, sorry guys, but I did a stool test. I actually did 7. The poor DPD guy had to, to come to the house and collect a box of my poo.
He wasn't aware.
He didn't know what he was carrying, so that was okay. But did lots of really interesting testing, and it really opened my eyes to exactly what was going on in my gut. It unveiled a lot of issues that would pertain to my hay fever, to hormonal imbalances within my body. And also I did blood tests as well, which showed up a couple of things. So Jess put me on a number of different supplements, and I tried a low histamine diet, and it kind of transitioned over the last 9 months to what now is like I'm right now just taking a multivitamin, my probiotic, and I am in the best health I've ever been. I haven't had an IBS attack in like 6 months. I lost about 1.5 stone in weight. in the last 9 months, definitely related to my hormones.
It's mad just getting under the bonnet, like what's going wrong, the testing,
Exactly.
and then really knowing how to target it. Because like it wasn't that you didn't have a good diet, but
I had a great diet and I work out a lot. I love exercise. On paper, I was healthy, but really when I looked into it with Jess, there were just things going on and it was all really related to the gut. But
that's a perfect example though. Like I think we're now aware of these issues that are out there, and then we're also aware that the lack of kind of information's out there. But even this podcast really is trying to speak to people. There's a lot of people who think they're healthy, but when you start to unpick like what's going on, there's these small underlying issues. They're not affecting their lives. You know, they can get on with their day to day. They can go to work and stuff. But, you know, they're noticing things that just probably aren't right, and they need to ask the question about it. Because they may be not a big issue now, but they will be. And they can probably get to another level of health even today. And that's really what we want to do. We want to raise awareness around those issues and give that practical information, you know, through the experts to actually help you maybe look at things a little bit differently. Definitely. Challenge kind of like, is that actually okay? What's going on?
And maybe consider the interconnectedness of your symptoms as well. So another example is like, I was feeling this like histamine response in my tummy when I ate certain foods, but then I also had hay fever. That's probably a bit of a random example, but like a lot of what's going on in your body is connected to each other, and they're connected really through the gut. That is the kind of beginning of it all. And that's one episode that we really want to sink our teeth into.
The gut is like, if you think about it, like all your life, everything starts with your nutrition. So like you're putting something into your mouth, it's going into your gut. All your chemical, your biological reactions are kicking off really from there. So the fuel that you're putting into your body, just the knock-on effect from that
sends messages through the rest of your body.
Exactly. So that's the thing that you really need to start with. And most of these doctors and functional medicine doctors, you know, they'll start with looking at your diet, your nutrition, the health of your gut, and like the research that's coming out on the gut is phenomenal.
So aside from this podcast, where we will of course have lots of wonderful experts on sharing their tips and tricks and everything that we feel people really need to know, are there any practitioners out there, maybe on social media, that you would recommend people follow? I know I definitely have a few that come to mind.
Yeah, I think when we got into the space, Mark Hyman was the main guy. The man. But like I even notice now on other big podcasts and stuff that this world of functional medicine and lifestyle medicine is really looking at your stress, your sleep, your exercise, your nutrition to deal with issues, with chronic diseases rather than through medicine. So like this change is happening. The like traditional medicine and healthcare, of course, has its place. It's unbelievable at certain things. But we also know that there's this epidemic out there and people are getting more sick. So like we need to change. What we're doing at the moment isn't working. And you can see it like, you know, there's the Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the biggest hospitals in the States. Now they have a whole centre for functional medicine, which Mark Hyman is involved in. And as I was saying, a lot of these big podcasts, you're seeing more and more kind of functional medicine doctors and people in this space starting to pop up. So from our perspective, we've been looking at it for a few years. It's great to see this change happening, and that's more kind of what we want to do here with our conversations is to talk about those topics that are very interesting. Yeah.
Some people I would definitely recommend following on Instagram. Glucose Goddess.
Oh, brilliant.
She's class.
She's everywhere now, isn't she?
She is, yeah. So her kind of concept is all around blood glucose monitoring and the idea that managing your blood glucose levels, it's not good enough to start looking at that when you have diabetes or pre-diabetes. Like we all need to be somewhat aware of the effects of food on our blood glucose levels because of the knock-on effect that has with things like inflammation or weight gain or hormones.
So glucose is essentially just sugar that you're getting in your foods, and any spikes throughout the day the detrimental effects they can have on like a wide array of things.
Yeah, and a lot of eye-opening content on her Instagram page around what does spike your blood glucose.
Yeah.
But what I love even more is she's so practical about these really easy hacks that you can take or make to reduce your blood glucose, like tablespoon of apple cider vinegar before your meal, or have your fibre before your protein, your fats, your carbs. So definitely check her out. She's great. Mark Hyman, as you said, he actually shares a lot of really great recipes as well. If anyone is struggling with, healthy meals that are kind of interesting or fun. And then, of course, our good pals, Aisling O'Kelly, who has a really great podcast specific to female health and female hormones. I have found her Instagram great, but her podcast great as well, specifically from a female hormone perspective. And then, hopefully we have a few nice episodes lined up in this podcast for everyone. So what is I know what it is, but tell our listeners, Fergus, what is the kind of future of Ethos and taking this whole concept to the next level?
Yeah, well, it's really around the stress care concept, as I was mentioning. That's the epidemic of the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everyone is dealing with on a day-to-day, and it's this mental and physical approach. So yeah, we're going to kind of look at that holistically, and create products, but also digital health services, especially to help people find out what's wrong with them, where their kind of body or mind might be under stress, and then how they can deal with it. So that's really the future and what we're looking at. It's across different areas. So like your gut obviously being the kind of epicenter of it all, or the pivotal piece, and how when you're stressed essentially and you're in this kind of fight or flight mode, your digestive system shuts off, because all your body cares about is like how you deal with the danger that's in front of them.
Right.
So it starts to suppress all these systems in your body, like your digestive system, your immune system. They all become shut down for a while. Therefore, you have these gut issues. You become more susceptible to other illnesses and colds and flus, etc. Sleep obviously is a key one, and the research that's coming out there on that, and how stress affects your serotonin levels and your melatonin levels, and therefore you struggle to sleep at night. So yeah, stress care is the future of Ethos, and how we can kind of combine products and services both to build your resilience to stress, but also to like restore inner balance in your body.
Right.
It's this inner balance or kind of homeostasis that's like the key for life and for a healthy life. So when you become stressed, you're very much unbalanced. Your hormones are imbalanced and all your different systems aren't working as they should. So we will be looking at ways that you can bring your body back to balance.
And do you want to explain, just for the listener, like how did we come up with those 5 key functions? Or
yeah, well, that's true. Working with the health professionals, this is the approach that they would take when they're trying to look at a new patient, is often starting with the gut, then looking at your mind and your adrenal stress levels, the health of your sleep. Then it kind of moves on. Once you sort that sort of stuff out, it's looking at how you can bolster your immunity and your energy levels. Because a lot of these people who are stressed will report with like chronic fatigue, for example, or they're getting sick all the time. So as you said, everything is connected.
Yeah.
This is the approach that these functional medicine doctors and stuff would take. So we're mirroring that essentially, and trying to like bring it to more people.
Yeah.
And again, this has been inspired by like the customers that we're talking to when we've done podcasts previously, and I've explained my issues or you've explained your issues. The amount of people that get on to us to say, God, I'm actually feeling symptoms like that. Maybe I should look into it. And yeah, like we should definitely get referral bonuses for the amount of people that we've sent to see these doctors.
Yeah, we should definitely be earning a little bit of commission, I think.
Yeah. In terms of then, so for the rest of the series 1, I think we're trying to answer some of these kind of important questions that people need to know. And it's the simple stuff, like, why are you getting that 3 p.m. slump every day and starting to question, what are the reasons behind that? So we'll be talking to someone about that. There's like why we sabotage our own health, which I find...
I love that one.
Yeah. Like...
Guilty.
Yeah, we're all guilty. But it's just, why do we do the things we know they're bad for us and they're actually going to make us feel like crap, an hour later or a day later, but we'll still go and do them. There's some other things like, what we can learn from our poo.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that one too.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can learn from your poo.
Okay.
An awful lot. I learned a lot from my poo.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. Thank you for sharing. Some other stuff we'll look at, how you can use your breath to cure anxiety.
Yeah.
The kind of a performance enhancing drug that we all can tap into. Our sleep, and not a Lance Armstrong type drug, like an actual natural one there. And like people will give you tips for all these different ways you can get that extra 1% or extra 5%. But we'll be talking to an expert on how you can actually get up to 20% from your sleep.
And we also want to include a little segment at the end of every episode where we look at the lies or mistruths that people might have heard or be familiar with when it comes to food. Or like we discuss the idea of the lies marketers are telling you about your food or your health. I feel like that could nearly be an episode in and of itself.
It is, it's just what people think it's common knowledge and it's just the way we do things.
Right.
But if you actually go and look at the history of it, you'll find out a lot of these things just started maybe 40 years ago, and it's a company started a marketing campaign that's just kind of grown legs, and now it's the way people eat or the way people live. But it's really not the way to be going from a health perspective. So buzzing to kind of chat to these experts. We're, as we said, like we're the every person. Like we're really just selfishly, we're trying to educate ourselves as well, kind of get inspired from a business perspective, which is saying even from our own personal perspective.
Totally.
From a health, and we're hoping you will kind of get inspired by it too, the listener, and start to really just think differently about things. So I think that's kind of us.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's our pilot, our trailer, whatever you call these things. So looking forward to the rest of the season.